Hello, and welcome back to Sovereign Judgment, where ordinary homeowners discover that the most dangerous thing in suburbia isn't crime, weather, or declining property values. It's a person with a laminated badge and 30 uninterrupted minutes to study the bylaws. Today's story involves 6 wind chimes, 1 HOA president, and a restored World War II searchlight, powerful enough to make passing clouds reconsider their life choices. Things started peacefully. Then the complaints arrived. Then the clipboard arrived. And eventually, so did a machine originally designed to locate enemy aircraft over the Pacific. Before we get into it, tell me where you're watching from. I'm curious how far this neighborhood disaster has traveled. All right, let's illuminate the situation. At 9:43 on a Saturday evening, a column of white light shot upward from my backyard and struck the underside of a cloud, approximately 4,800 feet above the fictional town of Bellwether, Crestfall County. The beam was 6 feet wide at the base, bright enough to cast shadows through closed curtains, and moving slowly across the sky in perfect rhythm with the gentle ringing of 6 brass wind chimes hanging from my pergola. Ding! The searchlight swept east. Dong! It turned north. It performed a graceful figure 8 over the clubhouse. At the end of my driveway, HOA President Karen Bellingham stood in pink silk pajamas, orthopedic sandals, and a terry cloth robe embroidered with the words, Board President in gold thread. She was holding her clipboard. Of course she was holding her clipboard. Karen carried that clipboard the way medieval kings carried swords, except swords were useful and had occasionally settled disputes. Beside her, Officer Daniel Ruiz stared upward, with the expression of a man whose police academy instructors had not covered synchronized anti-aircraft lighting in residential neighborhoods. Karen pointed at my backyard. "You need to arrest him." Officer Ruiz slowly looked at her. "For what?" "For weaponizing atmospheric illumination. That is not a crime. He is targeting my house." The beam completed another slow arc and illuminated nothing more threatening than a cloud shaped like a baked potato. Officer Ruiz watched it for several seconds. "It appears to be targeting weather." Karen's face tightened like a purse with a drawstring pulled by an angry raccoon. I took a sip of coffee from the mug in my hand. It was cold. My coffee was always cold. I could heat coffee at 8 o'clock, carry it 12 feet, and somehow arrive at 8:01, holding a beverage suitable for preserving organs. "Evening, officer," I said. "Mr. Mercer." Karen spun toward me with the rigid speed of a garden sprinkler discovering vengeance. "Do not speak to him casually," she snapped. "He has installed military equipment in a residential subdivision." Officer Ruiz looked at me. "Is it military equipment?" "Formerly." "Does it contain weapons?" "No." "Explosives?" "No." "A siren?" "No." "Then it's doing better than most golf carts in this neighborhood." Karen made a noise like a tea kettle discovering tax fraud. The wind shifted. My largest chime moved. Gone in. The searchlight turned toward the western sky and performed a slow, majestic sweep over Karen's roof. She ducked, not slightly. Karen Bellingham dropped into a full tactical crouch behind Officer Ruiz, using a police officer as cover from reflected light. That was the moment I knew the last 38 days had been worth it. But to explain why a 48-inch General Electric searchlight was rotating behind my hydrangeas, I need to go back to the first complaint. It arrived on a Tuesday. The envelope was cream-colored, heavy, and embossed with the golden oak leaf logo of the Bellwether Meadows Homeowners Association. The stationery had the solemn texture of a document announcing either a royal succession or a $12 late fee. Mine announced a $50 wind chime violation. I found it tucked beneath my front door at 6:17 in the evening, positioned precisely in the center of the mat as though delivered by a passive-aggressive surveyor. Inside was one sheet of paper. Notice of acoustic nonconformity. That was the heading. Not noise complaint. Not please call us. Acoustic nonconformity. The letter said, my backyard wind chimes produced irregular metallic resonance inconsistent with the tranquil auditory character of Bellwether Meadows. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I went into the kitchen, reheated my coffee, forgot about it, and returned 10 minutes later to discover it had become cold again through what I can only assume was personal malice. My name is Thomas Mercer. Most people call me Tom. At the time, I was 52 years old. divorced, moderately bald, and living at a 114 Lantern Finch Lane in a 2-story craftsman house, with blue shutters and a porch wide enough for 2 rocking chairs and 1 regrettable treadmill. The wind chimes hung from a cedar pergola in my backyard. There were 6 of them. One was made of copper tubes and had belonged to my mother. She bought it at a craft fair for $32 and claimed the tone reminded her of Sunday mornings. It actually sounded like a spoon falling into a large soup pot, but she loved it. One was bamboo, one was ceramic, one was made from old silverware by my daughter Emily when she was 14. It produced no recognizable musical note but made a charming clatter whenever a squirrel landed on the pergola. The remaining 3 had been gifts from neighbors. None was amplified, none was electronic. The loudest measured 44 decibels from my rear property line during a 15-mile-per-hour gust, which is roughly the sound level of a quiet library or a person opening a granola bar during church. I knew that because I had measured them. I have spent 31 years designing, restoring, and certifying large rotating electrical systems, including industrial motors, aircraft ground equipment, and historical lighting systems for museums. I didn't tell people that often. Most conversations die when you use the phrase 3-phase synchronous motor before dessert. My house mattered to me because I had bought it after 27 years in a marriage that ended politely but thoroughly. My ex-wife Caroline got the condo near the lake. I got half the furniture, a cast-iron skillet, and a new appreciation for silence. Lantern Finch Lane was where I rebuilt things. I planted tomatoes. I repaired the porch. I learned how to cook for one without producing enough chili to supply a minor league stadium. My daughter visited every other Sunday. The wind chimes reminded me that quiet didn't have to mean empty. So I read the notice again. At the bottom, in 11-point Garamond, it instructed me to remove all exterior suspended resonance devices within 72 hours. I called the HOA management office. A woman named Denise answered. Bellwether Meadows Community Services. This is Denise. Hi, Denise. This is Tom Mercer at a 114 Lantern Finch. Yes, Mr. Mercer. I received an acoustic nonconformity notice. There was a pause. Yes. I'm calling because I'd like to hear you say that phrase out loud. Another pause. Mr. Mercer, the complaint concerns your wind chimes. Are they too loud? The letter says they are non-conforming. That isn't a measurement. The board will be able to provide additional clarification. Excellent. When does the board measure sound? The board does not measure sound. So how did it determine mine was excessive? The board president conducted a site assessment. From my backyard? No. From the street? I believe so. My chimes are behind the house. I'm not sure I can assist further. Neither am I, Denise. The next morning, Karen Bellingham arrived at 7:26. I was on the porch, wearing pizza-patterned socks, and trying to convince my coffee to remain warm through a complete sunrise. Karen approached in a white golf cart fitted with chrome mirrors, a cup holder, a flashing amber beacon, and a front license plate that read, President 1. She parked diagonally across my driveway. Karen was 61, tall, and built with the sturdy confidence of a courthouse column. She wore pressed khaki trousers, white loafers, and a coral polo embroidered with the HOA logo over her heart, like a military decoration she had personally awarded herself after the Battle of Mulch Bed. Her blonde hair was arranged into a helmet-shaped wave that did not move despite the breeze. She carried a blue clipboard loaded with papers, plastic tabs, sticky notes, and what appeared to be a small ruler. Mr. Mercer, she said. Her voice had the tonal quality of a fork circling the inside of a garbage disposal. Mrs. Bellingham. President Bellingham is appropriate during official association business. Tom is appropriate during coffee. She ignored that. Karen marched up the walkway with the posture of a 4-star general inspecting troops who had personally disappointed her by planting begonias. I assume you received the notice. I did. And the envelope was very nice. Her eyes narrowed. The wind chimes must be removed. Why? Because they violate Section 7, Article 4, Paragraph 11 of the Association's Exterior Environment Standards. What does that section say? She glanced at the clipboard. It was a quick glance, but it contained panic. It prohibits exterior disturbances that interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of neighboring properties. What disturbance? The metallic chiming. At what volume? The volume is irrelevant. Then what makes it a disturbance? The fact that it is disturbing. To whom? She inhaled through her nose like a vacuum cleaner encountering a Lego brick. The identity of complainants is confidential. Was there more than one? I am not obligated to disclose that. Was there even one? Karen lifted the clipboard between us. It was less a gesture than a deployment. Mr. Mercer, this is not a negotiation. You have 72 hours from the date of notice. After that, the association may impose a daily fine of $25. May I see the rule? You have a copy of the bylaws. I have 186 pages of bylaws written before wind chimes existed, apparently. The language is broad by design. Broad enough to cover birds? Birds are naturally occurring. What about children? Her mouth became a straight line. Children are not exterior suspended resonance devices. They can be, depending on the playground. Karen's expression froze like a computer trying to process a file named sarcasm. Final 2. Remove the chimes. I'll review the documents. You have 72 hours. She turned sharply, walked back to her golf cart, and reversed over the corner of my lawn. The amber beacon flashed as she drove away at approximately 8 miles per hour, which gave the entire departure the urgency of a parade float fleeing a bank robbery. I stood there with my cold coffee and watched her go. I was amused. I was also worried. The HOA had authority to issue fines, record liens, and recover legal fees. Bellwether Meadows had once charged a widower $1,140 because his trash bin remained visible for 11 minutes after the collection window. I wasn't dealing with harmless eccentricity. I was dealing with harmless eccentricity backed by paperwork. That afternoon, I read every page of the bylaws. The phrase, wind chime, did not appear once. Neither did suspended resonance device, because that phrase had been invented by someone who wanted to sound like an acoustical engineer without experiencing the inconvenience of education. Section 7, Article 4, Paragraph 11. Prohibited persistent mechanical, amplified, or motor-driven noise exceeding municipal standards. My chimes were none of those things. I emailed Karen. Mrs. Bellingham, I reviewed the cited provision. My wind chimes are not mechanical, amplified, or motor-driven, and they do not exceed the Crestfall County residential noise limit of 55 decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Please provide the measurement, date, time, location, and equipment calibration record supporting the violation. Regards, Thomas Mercer. She responded 9 minutes later. Mr. Mercer, the board is not required to engage in technical debate with residents regarding obvious nuisances. Compliance is expected. President Karen Bellingham. I printed the email and placed it in a binder. That was my first binder. By the time this ended, I had 4 binders, 2 external hard drives, 17 labeled audio files, and a spreadsheet so organized it could have applied for federal employment. At 6:40 the next morning, Karen drove slowly past my house in the golf cart. She stopped. She raised her phone. She recorded the chimes for 43 seconds. There was no wind. The chimes did not move. Karen stood there filming 6 silent objects like a wildlife documentarian, waiting for patio furniture to mate. When nothing happened, she reached through the side gate and flicked one of the copper tubes with her ruler. Ding! She recorded the sound. I watched from the kitchen window. Then I walked outside. Good morning. Karen nearly dropped the phone. I am conducting an inspection. From my side gate? Association representatives have the right to visually inspect exterior conditions. You just struck my wind chime. I did no such thing. It's on my camera. She looked toward the small security camera above the garage. Her eyes widened by approximately 3 millimeters. I was testing responsiveness. Of an object on private property? The association has inspection authority. Visual inspection. Do not obstruct official business. I'm standing on my porch. Her voice rose like a lawnmower running over a socket wrench. You are being combative. I'm wearing pizza socks. Karen returned to the golf cart and drove away without another word. At 9:02, I received a second notice. It added $75 for failure to cooperate with an authorized compliance review. At noon, the HOA posted a message in the community Facebook group. Reminder to all residents. Exterior noise-producing decorations are prohibited when they disrupt neighborhood harmony. Recent incidents involving deliberate non-compliance have required board intervention. Residents are encouraged to report violations directly to management. No names were mentioned, but the post included a photograph of my house. My neighbor, Linda Park, commented first. "Are we talking about Tom's wind chimes?" Karen replied, "The board cannot discuss individual enforcement matters." Linda wrote, "Then why did you post his house?" Karen deleted the comment. Then she deleted the post. I had already taken screenshots. The following evening, Karen returned with board treasurer Martin Dobbins, a narrow man with rimless glasses, and the anxious posture of someone permanently expecting a waiter to ask whether everything was okay. Martin wore gray slacks and a golf shirt tucked so tightly into his waistband that his torso resembled a toothpaste tube squeezed from the middle. Karen had changed into a floral jacket that looked like a botanical garden had exploded inside a furniture showroom. She held the clipboard. Martin held a decibel meter. It was a $30 model sold online for checking dishwasher noise. I recognized it because I owned 3 calibrated meters and had once disassembled that exact model for a training seminar titled "Why Consumer Instruments Lie." Karen pointed toward the pergola. "We will now conduct an official reading." "From where?" "The property boundary." "Which one?" "The rear boundary. That's behind the fence. You will provide access. Your notice didn't request access. I'm requesting it now." "For what date?" "Now. I require 48 hours. Written notice for non-emergency entry under Section 2, Article 9. Martin looked at Karen. Karen looked at Martin. Martin examined the decibel meter as if hoping it contained an emergency exit. "This is an exterior inspection," Karen said. "Inside a locked fence. You are obstructing the board. I am asking you to follow your own rule." Karen made a sound like a goose attempting to pronounce the word jurisdiction. "Fine. We will measure from here." She positioned Martin on the sidewalk, 73 feet from the nearest chime, and with my house between him and the pergola. "Proceed." Martin turned on the meter. It displayed 49 decibels. A landscaping crew was operating a leaf blower 2 houses down. Karen pointed triumphantly. "There. That's a leaf blower. It is ambient sound associated with your property. The landscaper is at 122 Lantern Finch. The reading occurred in front of your residence. So if a helicopter passes over my house, I own aviation?" Martin lowered the meter. "I think he has a point." Karen turned toward him with a look sharp enough to peel paint. "Record the reading." Martin wrote 49. I photographed the display, the landscaping truck, the leaf blower, the time, the weather conditions, and Martin's meter. Karen stared at me. "You seem to enjoy documentation." "I'm warming up." The next week produced 4 more notices. One charged me $100 for visible noncompliance. Another charged $50 because the wind chimes remained capable of producing sound. That phrase fascinated me. My front door remained capable of slamming. My car remained capable of honking. Martin Dobbins remained capable of forming an opinion, though evidence suggested he rarely exercised the option. The board scheduled a hearing for Thursday at 7 p.m. I arrived at the clubhouse with my first binder, my calibrated decibel meter, and a mug of coffee that went cold during the 90-yard walk from the parking lot. The board sat behind a folding table. Karen occupied the center chair. Martin sat to her right. Secretary Paula Vance sat to her left. Paula was a retired dental receptionist with enormous glasses and a habit of nodding before anyone finished speaking, like a dashboard ornament in a car traveling over gravel. 12 residents attended. Karen opened the meeting. "This disciplinary hearing concerns repeated and intentional violations of our community's peaceful enjoyment provisions." I raised a hand. "Before we begin, is this being recorded?" Karen frowned. "The secretary takes minutes. Is audio recording permitted?" "This is a private association proceeding." "That wasn't my question." Paula leaned toward Karen and whispered. Unfortunately, the microphone was on. "He can record if he's participating." Karen whispered back. "I know that, Paula." She did not know that. I placed my phone on the table. Karen folded her hands. "Mr. Mercer, you were directed to remove 6 unauthorized noise devices. You refused. They aren't prohibited. They are prohibited under Section 7, Article 4, Paragraph 11. That section applies to persistent mechanical, amplified, or motor-driven noise. The board interprets the provision. The county noise control officer inspected my property yesterday. I slid a letter across the table. He measured a maximum of 44 decibels during a 16-mile-per-hour gust. The municipal daytime limit is 55. He found no violation. Karen did not touch the letter. The county does not govern association standards. The association standard cites the county limit. The board retains discretion. Based on what? Resident complaints. How many? That is confidential. Does one of them live at 106 Lanternfinch Lane? Karen's mouth twitched. That was her address. I will not entertain insinuations. Your written complaint was attached to the violation packet management emailed me. Martin's head turned toward Karen. Paula stopped nodding. From the audience, Linda Park said, "Oh, for heaven's sake." Karen's cheeks reddened like two smoke alarms receiving bad news. The identity of the complainant does not invalidate the complaint. No, but it answers my question. Karen leaned forward. Mr. Mercer, your attitude demonstrates precisely why enforcement is necessary. My attitude is not listed in the architectural guidelines. A few people laughed. Karen struck the table with her palm. The sound startled Paula into nodding 6 consecutive times. The fines stand. You now owe $325. Failure to pay may result in additional charges, legal referral, and collection action. Will you provide the written decision? You will receive it. Good. I closed the binder. Karen looked almost disappointed. She had expected shouting. People like Karen Bellingham thrive on emotional weather. They arrive carrying umbrellas and become irritated when nobody produces a storm. I paid nothing. Instead, I filed a formal internal appeal. Karen rejected it herself. I requested mediation. Karen denied mediation because the matter was not appropriate for compromise. She then posted another Facebook message, accusing unnamed residents of using technical loopholes to undermine shared values. Linda Park commented, with a photograph of Karen measuring Linda's mailbox with a ruler. Karen blocked her. The situation might have remained a small, stupid dispute if Karen had stopped there. Karen did not stop there. On the 19th day, I came home from work and found a red notice taped to my front door. Final demand before lien review. The alleged balance was now $1,875. The board had added administrative fees, inspection fees, hearing fees, document preparation fees, and a $250 community impact assessment. I called Denise. What is a community impact assessment? I'm not authorized to explain board-generated fees. Did the board define it? No. Did the management company approve it? No. Is it in our contract? No. So it's a number Karen typed into a spreadsheet. I cannot comment on internal processes. Denise. Yes? Blink twice into the phone if you need help. She laughed. Then she abruptly stopped laughing. At 4:15 the next afternoon, a contractor arrived to remove the chimes. His name was Dale. He had a ladder, a cordless drill, and no idea why he was there. "Hoa sent me," he said. Dale was a compact man with sunburned arms and a mustache shaped like 2 caterpillars attempting a merger. They said the homeowner authorized removal of 6 hanging fixtures. I did not. He looked at the work order. Is Karen Bellingham the homeowner? No. Does Karen Bellingham live here? No. Then I'm leaving. You may be the most qualified person they've sent. Dale folded the work order. I had a condo board once try to make me paint a red fire door beige. These people would put a cardigan on a smoke detector. I would have followed Dale into battle, but he had another appointment. He drove away. 10 minutes later, Karen arrived in the golf cart. You interfered with an authorized remediation. You hired a contractor to enter my property without consent. The governing documents permit the association to cure unresolved violations. After notice and a board resolution, you received notice. Where is the resolution? The board acted. When? In executive session. On what date? That is privileged. Who voted? That is confidential. Was Martin there? Her eyes flicked away. Martin was visiting his daughter in Oregon. I knew because his wife had posted 17 photographs of them standing beside increasingly large trees. Karen gripped the clipboard. You are not entitled to cross-examine me on the sidewalk. You're standing on my sidewalk. This hostility will be noted. Use both sides of the paper. That was the closest I came to losing my temper. Not because she threatened me, not because she lied. Because she had sent a stranger to dismantle something my daughter made. I watched Karen drive away. then stood beneath the pergola with my hand on the silverware chime. A spoon tapped against a fork. The tiny clink felt as personal as a door closing. My coffee sat on the patio table, cold again. I decided I needed help. The next morning, I called Samuel Ortega. Sam ran Ortega Historical Illumination and Heavy Electrical, a company located in a converted bus depot 3 miles outside Bellwether. I had worked with him on museum restorations for 14 years. Sam was 67, 5 feet 6 inches tall, and shaped like a fire hydrant that had learned to negotiate government contracts. He wore denim overalls, steel-toed boots, and a gray mustache wide enough to provide shade for small animals. When I arrived, he was standing beside a dismantled carbon arc lamp and eating peach yogurt with a screwdriver. "You brought paperwork," he said. "I brought a problem." "Same thing, only paperwork lasts longer." I explained the wind chimes. Sam listened without interrupting. Then I explained the notices, the fines, the fake inspection, the attempted removal, and the lien threat. He set down the yogurt. "What exactly do the rules prohibit?" "Persistent mechanical, amplified, or motor-driven noise exceeding municipal standards." "What do they allow?" "Decorative lighting with architectural approval, temporary event lighting, security illumination, flagpole lighting, landscape lighting." "Height limit?" "For fixtures attached to structures, 12 feet. Freestanding fixtures require county permitting. Moving beams? Not addressed. Commercial equipment? Not prohibited if screened from street view." Sam leaned back against the workbench. His smile appeared slowly, like sunrise over a junkyard. "Tom." "Yes?" "Do you remember the GE-48? I did. Everyone in our small field knew the GE-48. It was a World War II-era Searchlight manufactured in 1943, originally mounted on a trailer and used by an Army anti-aircraft unit to locate aircraft at night. After the war, it had been used at county fairs, movie premieres, and the grand opening of a furniture warehouse where, according to Sam, it accidentally illuminated a flock of geese over 3 counties. Sam had acquired it from a private aviation museum 5 years earlier. We restored the reflector, replaced the degraded wiring, rebuilt the azimuth drive, and converted the original carbon arc lamp to a modern LED array that produced a similar beam using 1/8 the power and none of the open electrical arc. It was legal, it was safe, it was glorious. It also weighed 2,940 pounds. "You want to put the Searchlight in my backyard?" "I want to ask whether your HOA has a rule against historically significant decorative lighting." "They will after this. Rules are like barn doors, Tom. They work best before the horse buys a lawyer." "I'm not trying to start a war." Sam wiped yogurt from the screwdriver. "No. You're trying to end a wind chime dispute. The war is just the lighting package." I laughed for the first time in several days. Then I stopped. "We'd need county approval." "Correct." "Electrical permit?" "Yes." "Structural pad?" "Yes." "FAA notification?" "Not necessarily, if the beam angle, duration, and operating zone remain within approved parameters. But we notify them anyway." "Shielding, programmable limits, automatic aircraft detection, already installed. Noise? The rotational drive produces 38 decibels at 20 feet. I looked at him. "That's quieter than the chimes." Sam's grin widened. "Now you understand history. The plan was not revenge. Legally, professionally, and in every document we submitted, it was an installation of a restored historical lighting artifact for educational display and occasional community demonstrations. Emotionally, it was revenge wearing a reflective safety vest. Before we moved a single bolt, we made everything bulletproof. I hired attorney David Pritchard to review the HOA documents. David was 48, broad-shouldered, and permanently rumpled, like a sofa cushion that had passed the bar exam. He kept peppermints in every pocket and read governing documents with the grim concentration of a bomb technician deciding which wire contained Latin. After 3 hours, he tapped Section 9, Article 2. "The HOA may regulate light trespass at the property boundary," he said. "It may regulate permanent structures above 12 feet. It may require screening of equipment. It may not impose new restrictions retroactively without a member vote." "What about a searchlight?" David unwrapped a peppermint. "The document does not contemplate a searchlight." "Is that good?" "It is rarely good for civilization. It is good for you." He reviewed the county code. Freestanding historical display equipment was permitted in residential accessory use areas with setbacks, screening, structural certification, and an operational safety plan. Maximum light at neighboring windows could not exceed 1/2 foot candle after 10 p.m. We designed the beam path so it never crossed a residence below 1,200 feet. The lamp housing sat 11 feet 4 inches above grade. The equipment was positioned 31 feet from the nearest property line. A 7-foot cedar screen concealed the trailer from the street. Operation was limited to 15 minutes on Friday and Saturday evenings between 8:30 and 9:30, with exceptions for approved community events. We filed a flight safety notice with the Regional Aviation Office. We installed an ADS-B aircraft receiver that automatically killed the beam if any aircraft entered a 10-mile radius below 12,000 feet. We installed emergency stop switches. We installed motion barriers. We installed 2 cameras. Then I had an idea. The wind chimes were the entire reason this had started. They should be involved. Sam and I built a synchronization system using small optical motion sensors mounted near the chimes. The sensors did not amplify sound. They detected movement. When a chime swayed, the system translated that movement into a slow searchlight command. The copper chime moved left. The beam moved left. The bamboo chime moved right. The beam moved right. The silverware chime triggered a gentle circular sweep. Because the searchlight motors were electronically limited, the movement remained slow, controlled, and within the approved aerial zone. The county electrical inspector, Maria Chen, watched a demonstration at Sam's shop. Maria was a small woman with steel-gray hair and the calm expression of someone who had rejected enough dangerous wiring to become immune to persuasion. She looked at the chimes. She looked at the searchlight. She looked at me. Why? Educational integration of passive environmental input with historic equipment. Sam coughed into his fist. Maria stared at us. Who is the neighbor? Ho President, Sam said. Maria nodded once. That explains the engineering. She spent 90 minutes inspecting every connection. Then she signed the permit. This is absurd, she said. Yes. It is also compliant. Yes. Do not make me regret this. I won't. She pointed at Sam. You might. Sam put a hand over his heart. Inspector, I regret most things before breakfast. The concrete pad was poured on a Monday at 7 a.m. The truck arrived first. Karen arrived second. Her golf cart skidded to a stop beside the curb, with all the drama available to 8 horsepower. She stepped out, wearing white capri pants, a lemon-yellow blouse, enormous sunglasses, and a wide-brimmed hat decorated with silk flowers. She looked like a patio umbrella had been appointed ambassador. What is this? I stood beside the driveway with the county permit folder. Concrete. I can see that. Then we're off to a strong start. The ready-mix truck reversed toward the side gate. Beep, beep, beep. Karen raised the clipboard. You cannot install a patio without architectural approval. It isn't a patio. What is it? An equipment foundation. Her head tilted. What equipment? You'll see. No, I will not see. You will stop work immediately. The concrete foreman, Big Mike Hanley, climbed down from the truck. Big Mike was 6 feet 5 inches tall, weighed roughly as much as a vending machine, and had a beard that made his safety glasses look like they were nesting. He handed Karen a copy of the permit. We're cleared by Crestfall County. The HOA has separate authority. Big Mike examined the clipboard. Does the clipboard pour concrete? What? Because if it doesn't, we're pouring at 7:10. Karen turned to me. I am issuing an immediate stop work directive under Section 5, Article 3, Paragraph 6. That section applies to unapproved building modifications. This is a building modification. It's a permitted equipment pad. You have not disclosed the equipment. The rules require approval for structures, not portable equipment. Portable? Big Mike glanced toward the 12-yard concrete truck. Portable is a flexible word. Karen stepped in front of the side gate. Big Mike stopped. He did not argue. He simply looked at me. I took out my phone. Karen, the crew has a valid county permit and my authorization to enter. Are you refusing to move? I am exercising association authority. You don't have authority to block permitted work. I absolutely do. Are you sure? Her chin lifted like an elevator, carrying only confidence. I am the elected president of Bellwether Meadows. Okay, I called the non-emergency police line. Officer Daniel Ruiz arrived 22 minutes later. He was 50, compact, and looked tired in a way that suggested fatigue had signed a long-term lease behind his eyes. He listened to Karen. He listened to me. He read the permit. Then he looked at the concrete truck, which had been rotating continuously and was beginning to sound impatient. "Mrs. Bellingham," he said, "you cannot physically block access to private property when the owner has authorized the work. I am not physically blocking anything. You are standing in the gate. I am conducting enforcement. You are standing in the gate while conducting enforcement." Karen pointed at me. "He refuses to disclose what he is installing." Officer Ruiz looked at me. "Is it legal?" "Yes." "Permitted?" "Yes." "Dangerous?" "No." "Is it a swimming pool?" "No." He turned back to Karen. "Then you need to move." Karen's voice became thin and metallic, like a fax machine receiving a threat. "You do not understand association law." Officer Ruiz exhaled. "Ma'am, I understand standing in gates." She moved. Big Mike watched her climb into the golf cart. Then he leaned toward me. "I've poured concrete for prisons with less supervision." Officer Ruiz left with one final observation. "This is currently a concrete dispute. Please keep it concrete." 3 days later, the Searchlight arrived. Sam transported it on a restored olive drab trailer pulled by a flatbed truck. The lamp housing was a huge circular drum, 56 inches across, with a polished parabolic reflector behind thick glass. The rear casing was painted military green. Brass identification plates gleamed along the side. The rebuilt rotating base sat beneath it on a geared turntable thicker than Karen's entire binder collection. The truck turned onto Lantern Finch Lane at 10:14 a.m. Children came outside. Adults came outside. One man stopped mowing his lawn mid-row and simply abandoned the mower. Linda Park walked across the street holding a mixing bowl. "What is that?" "A historical lighting artifact." "Is it a cannon?" "No." "Can we tell Karen it is?" The flatbed backed into my driveway. Karen's golf cart appeared at the corner. The amber beacon was already flashing. She drove faster than I had ever seen, perhaps 11 miles per hour, her floral scarf streaming behind her like the battle flag of an extremely organized pirate ship. She stopped beside the truck. Her sunglasses lowered, her mouth opened. For 6 full seconds, no sound emerged. It was the quietest Karen had been since birth. Then she whispered, "Absolutely not." Sam climbed down from the passenger side. He wore a hard hat with the words, "Illumination Department" printed across the front. "Morning." Karen pointed at the Searchlight. "What is that?" "General Electric 48-inch Searchlight. Serial number 3A19437. Manufactured March 1943. You cannot put military equipment in this neighborhood." Sam looked at the Searchlight. "Good news. It was discharged before your board was incorporated." "This is not funny." "It's a little funny." Karen turned toward me. "I am notifying the county. They issued the permit. I am notifying the power company. They approved the service upgrade. I am notifying the Federal Aviation Administration. We already did." Her face shifted through disbelief, anger, calculation, and a brief expression suggesting her brain had opened a drawer and found no additional authority inside. "You did not obtain architectural approval. It isn't a structure. It is taller than 12 feet. 11 feet 4 inches. It is visible from the street. Not after the screen is completed. It will produce noise. 38 decibels at 20 feet. The wind chimes are prohibited." "No, they aren't. They are under active enforcement. Your enforcement is under legal review." Karen's eyes moved between me, Sam, the Searchlight, and the growing crowd. "This is retaliation. It's a historical restoration project. You expect me to believe you independently decided to install a World War II searchlight during a wind chime dispute. I've had strange months." She stepped closer. Her voice dropped into the solemn register of a person announcing consequences on daytime television. "Mr. Mercer, I am giving you one opportunity to stop this before the association takes emergency action." "What emergency action?" "Whatever is necessary. Please put that in writing." Karen's face twitched. Behind her, Linda Park quietly held up her phone. She was recording. Karen noticed. "Stop filming me." Linda smiled. I'm documenting neighborhood history. The installation took 6 hours. By sunset, the searchlight sat behind the cedar screen, invisible from the street, except through the open gate. The next day, we completed the electrical work. The day after that, Maria Chen performed the final inspection. The county building supervisor signed the operational permit at 3:22 p.m. Friday. At 4:05, I emailed the full safety packet to the HOA board. At 4:19, Karen responded, "Cease and desist." The attached letter claimed the searchlight constituted an offensive industrial apparatus, an unapproved beacon, and a potential signaling device for unknown aerial entities. That last phrase deserved framing. David Pritchard replied on my behalf. He explained that the equipment complied with county zoning, building, electrical, lighting, and aviation safety requirements. He reminded the board that knowingly interfering with a permitted installation could expose individual directors to personal liability outside the association's insurance coverage. Karen responded 17 minutes later. "The board will determine its own liability." David called me. "I've been practicing law for 22 years, he said. "That is the first time anyone has volunteered to determine their own liability." At 8:30 that evening, we conducted the first test. The neighbors gathered in my backyard. There were folding chairs, lemonade, cookies, and one cooler containing adult beverages Linda described as, "for historical accuracy." Sam stood beside the control cabinet. Maria attended in her official capacity. David attended because he wanted to see whether his legal memo could be visible from space. Officer Ruiz parked at the curb after Karen called police about a pending aerial event. The searchlight remained dark. The wind chimes moved softly in the evening air. Karen stood outside the gate with Martin and Paula. She had issued an email ordering residents not to attend. 38 residents attended. At 8:29, I walked to the gate. "Karen, you're welcome to observe from the designated viewing area. I will not participate in an illegal exhibition. It's permitted. I reject the permit. You don't have that power. As president, I have inherent emergency authority." "Where is that written?" Karen lifted the clipboard. Section 1, Article 2, Paragraph 3, authorizes the president to preserve community welfare. David stepped forward. "No. It authorizes the president to schedule board meetings." Karen looked at him. "And you are?" "David Pritchard, Mr. Mercer's attorney." Her shoulders stiffened like a folding chair being opened by an angry uncle. "This is a private association matter." "Then stop making public threats." The backyard went quiet. Karen stared at David. David unwrapped a peppermint. At exactly 8:30, Sam turned the key. The control cabinet hummed. The searchlight's internal fans started with a low rush, like a distant train entering a tunnel. The lamp came on at 10% power. A pale beam appeared against the evening sky. People murmured. Sam increased the output to 25%. The beam became solid. At 50%, it stretched upward like a white pillar holding up the first stars. At full approved output, the beam struck the underside of a high cloud and created a glowing circle nearly 60 feet across. The children cheered. Linda Park whispered, "Oh, that is magnificent." Even Officer Ruiz looked impressed, though only in the technical sense that one eyebrow moved. Then the wind touched the copper chime. Ding. The beam turned east. A second chime moved. Dong. The beam swept north. The silverware chime rattled. Clink, clink, clink. The searchlight performed a slow circle. The entire crowd burst into laughter. Karen did not. Her jaw dropped with the gradual horror of a person realizing the punchline had been professionally engineered. "You synchronized it to the wind chimes." "Yes, you synchronized military equipment to prohibited decorations." "They aren't prohibited. This is deliberate harassment. The beam doesn't enter your property. It passed over my roof. At approximately 3,000 feet. That is still my airspace." David shook his head. "It is not." Karen turned to Officer Ruiz. "Do something." Officer Ruiz examined the permit packet. "The equipment is permitted. It is disturbing the peace." He checked the sound meter Maria had placed at the property line. 41 decibels. "The light is a nuisance." Maria pointed toward a calibrated photometer. 0.08 foot candles at the nearest residence. Theron's voice sharpened like a blender full of thumbtacks. "I demand immediate access to inspect the installation." I looked at David. David looked at me. The moment had arrived. Under the HOA documents, board representatives could inspect an alleged exterior violation after 48 hours written notice, during reasonable hours, provided they remained within designated access areas and did not interfere with equipment. Karen had delivered written notice 2 days earlier. Her letter specifically demanded access at 8:45 p.m. Friday. David had answered in writing. Access would be granted. She had created the appointment. She had chosen the time. She had insisted on entering during operation. We had warned her that the equipment area contained cables, barriers, moving machinery, and a marked observation platform. I opened the gate. You may inspect from the yellow platform. Do not cross the barrier tape. Do not touch the controls. The searchlight rotates automatically. I do not need instructions on how to conduct an inspection. You do. I am president of this association. The searchlight doesn't know that. Karen marched into the yard. Martin followed 3 steps behind, carrying a flashlight despite the presence of equipment capable of illuminating weather systems. Paula remained outside the gate. I'll take notes from here, she said. Karen stepped onto the yellow observation platform. The platform was 4 feet by 6 feet, bordered by a waist-high rail. The searchlight rotated slowly 30 feet away. The wind chimes moved. Ding! The beam swept west. Karen raised her own decibel meter. It displayed 43. She frowned and slapped the side. Your instrument may not be calibrated, Maria said. It is association equipment. That was not my concern. Karen walked to the edge of the platform. I need a closer reading. The platform is the designated inspection area, I said. She lifted one leg over the rail. Karen, do not leave the platform. You cannot restrict my access. There are power cables and moving equipment. I see them. Then remain where you are. She climbed over. The crowd murmured. Linda continued recording. Karen stepped onto the gravel path beside the barrier tape. David spoke clearly. Mrs. Bellingham, you are entering a restricted equipment zone after being instructed not to do so. I am performing my duty. Sam moved toward the emergency stop. Karen ducked under the yellow tape. The searchlight turned slowly. Its rear housing rotated toward her. Nothing struck her. Nothing came close to striking her, but the sight of nearly 3,000 pounds of rotating military-era machinery apparently activated a survival instinct that years of board meetings had suppressed. Karen jumped backward. Her heel landed on the loose end of her own clipboard strap. The clipboard flipped from her hand. Papers exploded upward like startled pigeons. Karen windmilled both arms, stepped sideways into a decorative kiddie pool I had placed beneath the pergola to catch rainwater, and sat down in 8 inches of water, with the solemn finality of a judge entering a bathtub. The searchlight continued its slow sweep overhead. The silverware chime rattled. Clink, clink, clink. The beam drew a calm circle on the clouds. For 1 perfect second, nobody moved. Karen sat in the pool, wearing soaked white capri pants, 1 orthopedic sandal, and an expression of such concentrated outrage that the water around her seemed embarrassed. Then Martin said, "Are you hurt?" Karen slapped the surface. "I have been attacked." Officer Ruiz entered the yard. By what? That machine. The searchlight was now pointing harmlessly south. You fell into a plastic pool. It moved toward me. It rotates. It threatened me. It is a lamp. Karen struggled to stand. The pool's vinyl floor slid beneath her sandal. She sat down again. This time the splash reached Martin. Martin removed his glasses. I don't think the bylaws cover this. Officer Ruiz helped Karen to her feet. Water poured from the bottom of her capri pants. Her floral scarf had landed across her head and now hung down one side of her face like a defeated parade banner. She pointed at me. He engineered this. I told you not to cross the barrier. He created an unsafe condition. Maria stepped forward. The restricted zone is marked. The platform is safe. You crossed a barrier after 3 verbal warnings. Karen turned to the crowd. You are all witnesses. Linda raised her phone. We are. Karen froze. Her eyes shifted toward the phone. Linda smiled. I got the whole thing. The color drained from Karen's face. Then she made the final mistake. She looked directly at Linda and said, "Delete that video, or I will make sure every property violation on your house is enforced until you move." Nobody spoke. Even the wind paused. David removed the peppermint from his mouth. "Thank you," he said. Karen stared at him. For what? For saying that clearly. Officer Ruiz closed his notebook. Mrs. Bellingham, threatening selective enforcement in front of the entire board, an attorney, a county inspector, and a police officer, is not ideal. She provoked me. Linda held the phone steady. I asked you to stop filming. You don't control my phone. I control association enforcement. David nodded. And there it is again. Karen looked around. Martin stood soaked and silent. Paula was still outside the gate, but she had begun nodding in a way that suggested her loyalty had detected an incoming weather change. Karen stepped toward the gate. Her remaining sandal made a wet squeak with every step. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The searchlight turned with the chimes. Ding! Officer Ruiz watched her leave. Then he looked at me. So, the wind chimes control the war lamp. Correct. He sighed. This is the most documented nonsense I have ever seen. The video reached the neighborhood group before Karen reached home. Linda titled it, Presidential Pool Inspection. Within 2 hours, it had 117 comments. By morning, someone had added dramatic orchestral music. By noon, another resident created a slow-motion version of Karen crossing the barrier, while the words I control association enforcement appeared across the screen. The legal consequences moved more quickly than the memes. David sent the recording to the HOA's insurance carrier, management company, and outside counsel. The insurance carrier opened a directors and officers coverage review. The management company suspended all enforcement activity related to my property. Outside counsel advised the board to preserve records and stop communicating publicly. Karen posted a 6-paragraph statement on Facebook. She called the video selectively edited. It was a continuous recording. She called the Searchlight an unregistered military weapon. It was registered as historical display equipment. She called the pool a concealed hazard. It was bright blue, 6 feet across, and decorated with cartoon dolphins. Then she blamed Martin. Martin resigned as treasurer that afternoon. His resignation email was 4 sentences long. The 3rd sentence read, I did not approve the community impact fee. The 4th read, please do not contact me except regarding the return of the calculator. Paula resigned as secretary the following morning. Her resignation was 1 sentence. I agree with Martin, including about the calculator. The remaining 2 board members called a special membership meeting. Karen attempted to cancel it. The bylaws did not allow her to cancel a petitioned recall meeting, supported by more than 20% of homeowners. 68% signed. The meeting took place in the clubhouse 11 days later. 112 homeowners attended. Karen sat at the front table in a navy blazer, pearl necklace, and expression like a cruise director being informed that the ocean had violated policy. She still had the clipboard. The management company presented the financial records. Karen had authorized $8,460 in legal consultations, $3,175 in unapproved enforcement fees, and $1,920 in contractor charges related to my wind chimes. She had also instructed management to create the Community Impact Assessment without a board vote. The association attorney explained that selective enforcement, unauthorized entry attempts, retaliation, and unsupported fines created significant liability. Karen interrupted him 7 times. On the 8th interruption, he closed his folder. Mrs. Bellingham, I represent the association. I am the association. No, he said. That appears to be the central misunderstanding. The recall vote was 93-11. 2 of the 11 votes belonged to people who misunderstood the ballot. Karen was removed as president at 8:36 p.m. At 8:41, she attempted to continue chairing the meeting. At 8:43, the new acting president, Linda Park, disconnected Karen's microphone. Karen spoke louder. Linda disconnected the second microphone. Karen raised the clipboard. Linda said, Karen, sit down. Karen did not sit down. Officer Ruiz, present at the management company's request, stepped forward. Mrs. Bellingham, this is private association business. You are no longer conducting it. I refuse to recognize an invalid vote. It was counted 3 times. I demand a recount. That was the 3rd count. Karen looked toward the audience. Nobody supported her. Not Martin. Not Paula. Not even the woman who had voted against recall because she accidentally checked the wrong box. Karen gathered her papers with trembling hands. The clipboard slipped. It hit the floor with a flat, unimpressive clack. Nobody picked it up. She left the clubhouse through the side door. Her golf cart waited outside, the amber light still flashing. She drove away alone, at 7 miles per hour. Officer Ruiz watched through the window. "Government has changed hands," he said. "The golf cart remains unstable. The board voided every fine against me. The association reimbursed my legal fees. It sent written apologies to Linda Park and 3 other residents who had experienced selective enforcement. The management contract was revised so no single board officer could initiate legal action, hire contractors, or create new fees without recorded approval. Linda Park agreed to serve as interim president for 90 days. Her inaugural speech lasted 14 seconds. "Keep your yard reasonably tidy. Don't block the sidewalks. Try not to be weird about other people's mailboxes." She looked toward my backyard. "And Tom, please use the giant war light responsibly." "I will. That's all." The neighborhood changed in small ways. Martin began walking in the evenings without checking driveway widths. Paula joined a book club. Children rode bicycles past the clubhouse again, instead of avoiding whichever corner Karen occupied with her ruler. Linda installed a bright red mailbox shaped like a barn. Nobody measured it. The hedges at 128 Lantern Finch grew 6 inches above the former limit. Nobody died. My daughter Emily visited the following Sunday. She stood beneath the pergola and looked at the searchlight. "You connected a World War II searchlight to the wind chime I made in high school." "Yes, because a woman complained it was annoying. That is a simplified version." Emily touched one of the old spoons. The chime moved. Clink. The searchlight, operating at demonstration power, turned slowly toward the afternoon sky. Emily watched the beam move across a high cloud. "This is the most divorced dad solution I've ever seen." "Thank you." That was not entirely a compliment. I accepted the useful portion. Karen listed her house for sale 6 weeks later. It sold for $37,000 below her asking price after buyers discovered the neighborhood video. She moved to a downtown condominium where exterior decorations were prohibited. Windows did not open, and the association president was a retired judge named Evelyn, who reportedly considered Karen a little intense. The golf cart stayed behind. Linda bought it from Karen for $900. She removed the amber light and used the cart to deliver lemonade during block parties. The clipboard was found in a clubhouse cabinet. Someone mounted it in a shadow box beside the pool inspection photograph. The brass plaque underneath read, "In memory of unlimited authority, 2021 to 2026. My wind chimes still hang from the pergola. The copper one still reminds me of my mother. The bamboo one still knocks against the post during storms. Emily's silverware chime still sounds like a kitchen drawer falling down a staircase. And on the first Friday of every month, weather permitting, I switch on the restored GE Searchlight for 10 minutes. The neighbors bring chairs. The children wait for the breeze. The chimes ring. The beam moves. Somewhere downtown, I like to imagine Karen closing her blinds. So tell me in the comments, was the synchronized searchlight reasonable, or should I have installed 2? Like the video, subscribe, and join us next time on Sovereign Judgment. Karen wanted quiet. Technically, she got it. The wind chimes stayed exactly the same. Now everyone was too busy looking up.